Has anyone ever met an amazing girl but was not ready at the time or did not have their life together and therefore pushed her away? Do you still think about her? What was it like? Story 1. There is someone I have known most of my life. We were close when we were younger, and I have loved her for a long time. Not in a dramatic way, just something that has always quietly stayed with me, even when we were not talking. We never got the timing right. I spent most of my 20s sick, just trying to survive. Everything else kind of faded into the background. Now I am doing better, but I am figuring myself out later than I wanted to and building myself up. Every time we reconnect, it hits me. She makes me feel like the version of myself I have been trying to get back to. She has always felt like home. I do not think that feeling has ever really gone away. Still, I know we are different people now. The emotion is still there, but maybe it has changed. Story 2. My best friend introduced me to this woman when I visited her at my best friend's college. She had a boyfriend at the time, but we automatically clicked and chatted casually that night. I thought nothing of it because she was in a relationship. Fast forward 3 months later, they had broken up, and we started texting each other. One thing led to another, and we went on a date and hooked up that same night. She was aggressive and passionate, like no partner I had experienced before. She was the only woman I dated who was taller than me. It was only by an inch or two, but I still found her attractive after only dating women who were shorter than me. We fooled around for a few months while exploring a list of sexual fantasies she had because her ex was very vanilla in bed. My favorite was her role-playing and handcuffing me to her bed. She bought me thoughtful gifts, we shared similar interests, and she was really smart. After about 6 months, she was ready to be in a committed relationship, but I was coming off the end of a 4-year relationship and didn't want to get into anything serious. She asked if it was okay for her to use dating apps and said if she got serious interest from a guy, we would stop hooking up. About 1.5 months after that conversation, she started talking to a man from Bumble and told me we could hook up one more time, basically telling me this was my chance to make a serious move before she ended our arrangement. I kept my word and left her alone after our last night together. Before I left the next morning, we lay in bed and held each other. She cried, and when I left, I knew I was making a mistake, but I just wanted to experience the freedom of not being committed a little while longer. She ended up getting engaged to this Bumble man after 7 months of dating. I have never had news about a woman I was previously involved with hit me that hard. They moved back to her home country of Portugal, something I couldn't have done due to the nature of my job, and I wish her nothing but the best. But I sometimes wonder what could have been. Story 3. I married her, finally. In 1982, met Lilene. She was in high school and I was in the United States Air Force. I enlisted at 17. I met Lilene while on leave one evening at a church dance in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Neither of us can remember which church, as neither of us is religious. I was mesmerized from the beginning. I had never met a woman who affected me like she did. I was smitten. We had a long-distance relationship for about a year, with me seeing her during leaves. She took me to her prom. The year after graduation, she went to Sweden as an exchange student. I was leaving the Air Force and needed to attend airframe and power plant school in Arkansas, so I left Santa Fe for school. She returned home, but we were too far apart, and I was broke. I had many wild oats to sow. I would have gotten in the way of her university education. I wasn't ready, and it would not have lasted. I married a woman in Arkansas a few years later. She had a problem staying faithful, so 8 years later, I couldn't take the pain and nonsense anymore and walked out. I moved to Florida where I had an Air Force buddy. I married again. Life was great. I was winning at life. We had a brand new home, a truck, a paid-off motorcycle, a boat for fishing in the Gulf, regular vacations, and more. Then she died in the middle of the night from a heart attack. She had heart disease. She died at an ex-boyfriend's home. This boyfriend was from 15 years earlier. I got to keep everything, but I was hurt badly, really badly. I was single for 5 or 6 years, and then it happened. Facebook came along and it had a search engine. You see, ever since Lilene and I split, I always tried to find her. just to be friendly, to ask how her life was going, to chat. I could not find her no matter what I did. She had a very peculiar last name that I kept spelling wrong when calling directory assistance. It took me from 1990 to 2010 to find her. Facebook finally found her for me. I entered her name in the search. Since her first name is rare, I got a hit with just her first name. I nearly fell out of my chair. I could not believe I had found her. I looked at all her Facebook content and everything else I could find about her. I sent a friend request and went to bed around 11 p.m., still in disbelief that I had found her. She was on the phone at 5 a.m. the next morning, ecstatic that I had contacted her. From there, it was on. I was in Pensacola, Florida, and she was in Dallas. She was single, I was single, and neither of us had children. Her neighbor happened to have a timeshare on Pensacola Beach and was coming that weekend in 2 days. She was coming to Pensacola in 2 days, WTF. She stayed the entire week with me. Her 2 other friends did their thing. They understood. The economy was poor in Florida at the time, so it wasn't long before I was invited to Dallas. We married on December 24, 2012, in Las Vegas. Both of us are super happy together. I was so crazy about her, and still am. I can die now and my life will be complete. Story 4. I was 22. I had just gotten clean from cocaine and was going to therapy after I was sexually assaulted by an ex. I met an angel named Caitlin. She was so good to me. She healed me to levels no one since has, to be honest. But I panicked and I ran. I am now getting married to my soulmate in October. I love my fiancé more than I have ever loved anyone. But I do wish I had not wasted 2 years of Caitlin's time because she did not deserve that. And I never got to thank her for everything she did for me. Story 5. She lived about 45 minutes away from me. Her name was Paige. I loved her name and I really liked her. She was the first girl I had mustered up the courage to try to get to know through Facebook at the time and actually ask to hang out with. Well, it worked. We dated for a short time, and then I ended things because I was still attached to my ex-girlfriend at the time. I'll never forgive myself. Oh well, life moves on. Story 6. My college ex. I have never met someone who made life so fun and magical as she did, while also being such a good person. I had to move far away for work and wasn't ready to be with a woman like her, I guess. I hope she meets someone who treats her right. Story 7. We were both young and socially awkward, both nerds focusing on our studies and planning what to do in a few years. We did not stay in touch, but I have thought about what if we met several years later. There was clearly something between us. Everybody else could see it, but neither of us tried to take it to the next level. Story 8. There were 2 situations. One where I did not want the sex to be a reason for feelings. I wanted the feelings to come first. She had been through a lot in her life, so her outlook on relationships was complicated. We were literally in bed, both kind of drunk, me on top of her, and at that moment I said no. She knew I was in love with her and was probably just lonely and wanted someone to be with her. After that, I tried to show her for weeks that I cared, but then she pulled away. I do not blame her. You cannot force feelings. My primitive instincts are sad because I know the sex would have been great and the relationship could have been too. But my conscience tells me I did the right thing because I did not take advantage of the situation. I like to listen to my conscience. The second situation was after I got out of a really toxic relationship and was trying to sort my head out. I was out with a friend and met this girl, and she was something special. We hit it off and went on a couple of dates, chatting constantly. She was the definition of perfection to me, but I was very scared to take the next step. She, bless her heart, could tell. She understood that my mental health was in a bad place. I was very depressed and had some dark thoughts. She realized that jumping into another relationship would not help. A few months later, she got a job out of the country and moved there. The last I saw on social media, she recently gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. I wish her all the happiness she deserves. Story 9. I was at the end of a relationship, taking a weekend off to think, and I was talking to a girl at a bar who was recently single. We talked for about 4 hours. It was amazing to talk to a girl without feeling like I was walking on eggshells. The conversation was really pleasant. She made me feel good about life. I intended to end the relationship immediately. When my ex got home, I brought up wanting to end it. She convinced me to stay for 4 more months, but I kept reflecting on that wonderful conversation and became more distant. Then she tried breaking up with me, and I was like, okay, bye. I met my wife within a week of that relationship ending. We have been happily married for 10 years, raising an awesome child together, and I have never had to walk on eggshells. I hope that girl is having a wonderful life. She helped me see that there are good, non-toxic women out there, and she deserves happiness. Story 10. This has happened more than once, to be honest. It's a trick of the memory as well, to be fair. The grass is always greener. One thing I've learned from this is the reason I didn't make a move was because I was insecure with myself and didn't think I deserved love. I think it came less from a I blew it vibe and more from an I didn't think I was good enough for her mentality. So rather than being hard on myself, I am trying to reframe it so it doesn't happen next time. Story 11. I met someone like that. We had great chemistry. She was really kind to me, and we were almost completely compatible. The problem was that I was still pretty young, in my early 20s, and coming out of a long-term relationship that was toxic. I was too young to realize that at the time. It also did not help that I had serious issues with low self-esteem and depression. Given that this happened in the mid-1990s, I did not recognize any of this. I thought I was a terrible person for not being into a relationship with someone who treated me well. I made nearly every mistake possible except cheating, and the relationship fell apart. On the upside, I eventually managed to get myself together and become the kind of man any woman would be happy to have as a partner. Although I did not end up with the girl from the story, I did find someone else, and we have been together for over 25 years. Last I heard, my short-term ex married her ex-boyfriend, but I am not sure if that lasted. Story 12. One, I wasn't ready. The other, she wasn't in a good place in life. I'll never forget either of them and truly wish the best for them. They cross my mind daily and always will. I'm not still in love with them, but there is some cosmic, inexplicable attachment, and I'm sure they feel the same. Story 13L. An absolutely amazing woman. I was 25 and she pursued me, but I wasn't ready to settle down. She lived on her own, and I dated her while trying to have my cake and eat it too. She had a great job, was an amazing cook, and really wanted to put in the work to make things work. Plus, the sex. Wow. I wasn't a good person to her, and she eventually grew tired of it. She has met an amazing guy, and they are engaged now. We still message each other happy birthday every year, and I am so happy she has found someone to treat her right. That said, I have met someone I am dating now who is absolutely amazing. She has kids, which I swore I would never do, and she has brought out the best in me every day. I am happy, finally, for the first time in years. Story 14 sure did. I broke up with her because I had a drinking problem and would often say horrible things to her when belligerently drunk. She deserved better. I am in a better place now, but she is gone and is never coming back. Story 15. Well, her nickname is Mana. She is amazing, and the world has dealt her a difficult hand. I lost contact for years and made a serious mistake when I tried to find and reconnect with her. I miss her. Story 16. I met a perfect woman only weeks after my separation. We actually knew each other a little from my local gym, where we occasionally chatted. After I separated, the conversations became more frequent, with long nights of texting that led to dates. The I love you was said early by both of us. But my ex gave me endless grief, threats, and promises to turn my teenage son against me. We had to keep our time together hidden. Dates were secretive, and she eventually gave up and let go because she wanted more, which is completely fair. It was only 6 months, but I think of her daily. I regret my inability to fully commit and wish I had met her 6 months later. She will always be my greatest failure. Story 17. I still think about her. She checked almost every box. I fumbled badly when she said she was thinking about moving out of state, and I was still recovering from a breakup. She did not move for another couple of years. I feel like if I had actually made an effort, it would have worked out. At the very least, we would have dated for a while. I sometimes wonder how different life would have been if I had truly tried. if we had worked out, and I had moved out of state with her. I wonder if that heartbreak, if it had ended, would have hurt as much as my most recent heartbreak, or if we would have experienced a heartbreak at all. Story 18, yup. I pushed her even further away with a lie when we continued talking after the breakup because it was easier to just move on than to accept that we would never be together the way we should have been. I was not in any condition to maintain a relationship or be a good partner at the time, and I have regrets about my actions. I think I saw her and her daughter at the park in town a while back. They must have been visiting family because they moved to another state years ago. They looked really happy, and that was all I wanted to know. She is the only person who ever made me feel like soulmates are real. I still think about her. Brittle Knees was my first true love at 30 years old. Story 19. Nikki was kind, caring, gorgeous, had the cutest American accent, and was amazing in bed. I had just been made redundant and was living off a sizable payout from a job where I worked remotely just after COVID. I didn't want her to know I was unemployed, so I lied about still having a job. I still had my full work-from-home setup, company computer and all. I was new to dating, being recently divorced. I thought that would be a deal breaker because of things I read from unpleasant people online. It turns out the deal breaker was the lie itself, which I revealed when I got a new job. It was never about the job. It was the lie. A lesson I will never forget. From that point on, it is 100% honesty. Story 20. She invited me to her house to play like elementary school kids. She grew into a stunning young lady. Beautiful, smart, upbeat, and always kind to me. A classmate asked me if it was okay to take her to prom. It did not dawn on me why he was asking me. She graduated as valedictorian. I was convinced I was insignificant by comparison. Many years later, my wife at the time and I bumped into her mother in the grocery store, and her mother very pointedly told me, "She always loved you." I have often thought about how much mentally healthier my life would have been if I had had even a modicum of courage to ask her out. Story 21. First day of university. Standing at the bus stop, she assumed I was a senior or knew where to go. We took the bus, and she wouldn't stop talking. She had a boyfriend, and we parted ways when we arrived. Somehow, she found me again on campus a few days later. She talked my ear off every time we met for coffee. We have been friends for 17 years and missed many opportunities to start something. Either she was in a relationship or I was. The sexual tension was always there, but we never acted on it. Apparently, her interest has faded now for good. Still friends. Still weird. Story 22. Her name is Jackie. We had 2 dates. She lives in a big city in her own place, has completed her graduate degree, and is a successful social worker. We first met as servers at my very first job. She was my biggest crush and still is. I messed up by not studying beyond my associate degree and making poor financial decisions in my early 20s. I am 30 now, and I cannot be with her because I do not believe I am what she deserves. She is still single to my knowledge, and we still talk every now and then. It has been 3 years since I was lucky enough to go out with her. Story 23. A couple of years ago, I was really close with a girl. I found out she liked me, but I did not like her back. I loved talking to her, so I kept talking to her and hanging out a lot with no intention of doing anything because I did not see her that way. We eventually stopped talking as much but remained friends. Now, I have been talking to her more, and I have started to develop feelings. However, now that I like her, I do not think she is into me anymore. Story 24. I met her during student teaching last September. She was perfect, beautiful, and shared all the same interests as me. I thought we were going to be good friends, but then she started holding my hands and kissing me. I wasn't ready to be with her. I only had $800 and was struggling to manage my insomnia while student teaching and attending school. I really did want it to be her. Sometimes I think the universe is really out to get me. Story 25. Lucky person that I am, she is now my wife. I managed to catch up with her again a couple of years later. Suddenly, it has been 25 years and we have 2 children. Story 26. Yes. I fell in love with her the minute I met her. I still love her. I messed it up royally. She moved on. We have not talked in a long time. She is still around, but I leave her alone because the opportunity has passed. One of my biggest regrets in life. Story 27. There was a woman I used to work with at a restoration company. We both had feelings for each other from day one. She worked in the office and I was a field worker, so we did not see each other every day. However, anytime I was at the shop, I made an excuse to go into the office just to see her. There was never a dull moment when we interacted. When I was sick with COVID-19 during the pandemic, I was quarantined in my apartment. She texted me saying she was dropping off a care package. I went out to the porch and there was a bag with soup, Vicks, vitamins, and cough drops. We never pursued a relationship, and I ended up in a 2-year relationship that recently ended. During that time, she remained single, and we would talk by text occasionally. We recently made plans to hang out this weekend, and I hope it goes well. I never forgot her, and apparently she never forgot me. I hope our date goes well. Story 28. My current partner of several years and I were good friends, but not really at a great stage of life to date. Then we tried. It was a wreck, but we did not really know why. We ended things for a year with no real closure. We got back together a few years ago, and it has always made sense. I think we needed the year though. Story 29. In college, I met a girl who was wealthier and more successful than I was. I had only been taught to be a provider and did not know how to handle the relationship and power dynamics back then. Story 30. I was separated and went out with coworkers. I met a lady who was beautiful and smart, with amazing, brilliant blue-gray eyes that mesmerized me. I thought it was just a chat, but she followed me to get gas, and we talked more. Even naive me realized that this was a come-on. I bailed, thinking I should be loyal to my soon-to-be ex-wife. I don't regret it, but I can still remember those eyes and the smile 15 years later. At the time, I told my friend about her. I later married that same friend, and she is the only woman in my past who threatens her, even though nothing happened. Story 31. I really connected with a friend and coworker and felt very comfortable around her. She ended her long-term relationship the day I started dating my future ex-wife. We reconnected last year after 15 years, and she got back with her ex shortly after. I truly value her friendship and encouragement. It is wonderful that the world has people like her. Story 32. When I was 26, I was at a conference center near the Berkshires that held workshops. 3 times a year they had work week, where you'd go for 3 or 4 days, work around the grounds, have fantastic meals 3 times a day, and meet amazing people. She was one of them, and we clicked instantly, the chemistry, the conversation, everything. She was a beautiful soul. Not long after, she casually mentioned, "I want to have children." The problem was she was 33, and at 26, I was still several years away from being ready. I thought, why couldn't time have shifted 10 years instead? We spoke many times over the years, but she never got the family she wanted. Now that I'm 37 and wouldn't mind settling down, I just wish it could have been then. She will always be one of the most beautiful souls I've ever known. Story 33. Long distance, coronavirus disease, lockdowns, I couldn't get my life together in time. She got tired of waiting. She gave up the opportunity to have an extremely comfortable life to be with someone like me. I just couldn't figure out my situation in time before she moved on. She was the best long-term partner I have ever had, so of course I still think about her, probably more than I should. I still miss her immensely, but she looks happy, so it was at least a happy ending in some ways. Story 34. One of my best friends in high school, I was too cowardly to accept when she asked me out, and we drifted apart after we graduated. Recently, we have reunited to some degree and now share the same friend group, but we are not as close, and I struggle to find any meaningful conversation. Honestly, neither of us are the same people we were, and I doubt I am right for her now. Story 35. This was almost me. My 11-year-old marriage was coming to an end. I met an amazing girl who showed me the light again. She knew I wasn't ready for anything too serious, and at the end of the summer, she was moving to South America. Traveling is her passion. We shared an amazing summer together. Then summer did indeed end, and she had already sold all her belongings, gotten a job, and found a place to live in South America. A year later, I got an excellent job with paid time off. At the end of the summer, they paid to fly me down to some islands in the Pacific. I reached out to her, told her where I was going, and offered to buy her tickets to come along with me for a few weeks. We had a blast. It was an amazing time. At the end of the vacation, she decided she was coming home. Things weren't working out there the way she thought they would. We have been living together for almost 2 years now and are as happy as we've ever been. I'm one lucky person. Story 36. I don't have much of a type. I would have an easier time listing traits and behaviors I avoid than trying to describe all the qualities I'm open to dating, if that makes sense. Tall to short, petite to obese, Asian to white. I'm open to a lot. To answer this post, though, I'm thinking of a very specific lady I'll call Katie. We're both 6 feet tall, and while I can barely throw a football, she was quite the athlete. She played softball and volleyball in school, still plays in an adult non-professional league, and recently started running. She wasn't exactly chubby, more thick. I think she might have been naturally a bit more strawberry blonde, but dyed her hair a little more red. She had big doe eyes and a nice smile, even with a cute gap. I found her attractive. She works as a special education teacher and seemed both smart and kind. She has some professional accolades, I believe. Her family was important to her, and she seemed to want the best for others. I'm sure I would have found out even more had we spent more time together. I thought she was a kind-hearted person, which is my point here. She was also very into me, surprisingly so. I cannot recall how it came up, but I remember making a joke about our kids inheriting different things from us, like hair or eyes, and she blushed, actually blushed. I saw it immediately and started teasing her. I think I outright asked if she had already pictured our kids. Her response, giggling, unable to look me in the eyes, maintaining the blush, appearing flustered and struggling with her words, told me not only had she thought about it, but she was loving it. I was smitten. Myself, on the other hand, I wasn't half as put together as she was. She had a career, still in its early years but establishing it, while I was unemployed at the time. She worked in a school, but I couldn't work in a school because I have a record from when I was 17. At the time, I was trying to be my grandmother's primary caregiver. She needed a lot of help due to undiagnosed dementia, which meant I also lived with my abusive, addicted aunt. Last but not least, I'm morbidly obese, about 400 pounds. Summarized, I was an unemployed, overweight felon. I didn't live in the basement, wasn't much of a gamer, but I fit other stereotypes. Important to mention, I also love cats and owned one then. Katie said she was allergic to cats, so before we met up, I did fresh laundry, which seemed to prevent her from having any allergic reactions. I believe she already thought I was attractive despite being obese, but I think she was particularly excited about how I'd look after losing weight. Several people have said I'd be attractive if I weren't overweight anyway. She wanted me to move closer to her. Without traffic, it was a 2-hour round trip. Finally, and the thing that eventually caused me to withdraw myself from being considered by her, she wanted me to leave my grandmother and aunt. I'd have left my aunt immediately, but my grandmother needed me. I couldn't abandon her. Not being willing to make her miserable just because I love cats sucked, but I was willing to sacrifice. Moving so far from anything I know sucked somewhat, but honestly, I was mostly fine with it. More anxious at the thought of it than against it. The problem was my not being willing to leave my grandmother. I think she understood where I was coming from, but I didn't want to keep having the same discussion about that. I wasn't rude about it, but I think I could have handled it better. These days, I have a job that earns probably about 60 to 75% of what she makes. My grandmother and aunt both passed, and while I didn't move far away, I did move out of that troubled house. At some point in early 2024, I searched her name out of curiosity and finally remembered her surname. I saw a wedding gift registry from 2022 or 2023 that included a picture of her and the man she married. She looked happy. Story 37. I am American and was visiting Spain. I met a really beautiful Argentinian woman while in Madrid. We grabbed breakfast and walked around the city together. She talked about her homeland and taught me some Spanish words and phrases. I talked about America and Italy. I think if I had just a bit more confidence, it could have turned into something real. Story 38. In high school, I was in love with a girl we'll call Kat. Kat and I were always close. She moved out of state for a year and we talked every day. She knew I had a thing for her for years. In our mid-20s, we decided to give it a good old-fashioned college try. Because I was severely addicted to pain pills and alcohol, and hung up on my trauma, I pushed her away. I still think of her every now and then. Even though we don't talk, I hope she's doing okay. After she cut contact, my mom died from an overdose. That was the push I finally needed to figure my life out, get clean, and go into therapy. I realized how I was the problem in our relationship years later. Story 39. 3 to 4 years ago, I met this exchange student. I was a broke student living with my parents. I couldn't travel to another country, nor did I have the means for her to live with me. We spent one really good year together before she went back. I think about her every now and then. Honestly, she was magical. Just looking at her eyes and her animated facial expressions made my heart happy. We had very similar experiences growing up, which was kind of eerie, but I think it made it really easy for us to get along and grow to love each other. If I had a bad day or if she had one, just spending time together made things better for both of us. Have you ever found someone like that? I haven't after her, but she healed me and helped me believe that good people are out there. Story 40. A mother of one of the children's classmates took a long day trip with the school. She needed another adult, so she asked me to ride with her. We had a great trip and really connected. However, we were both not in the best place. She was in a relationship that was going nowhere, and mine was struggling. On the way back, we stopped for dinner, and it felt like we were an ideal family. There was no drama at the table. The children did not bicker, and neither did we. An older couple walked by and told us that we looked like a cute family. A woman at a nearby table told the mother I was with that she was lucky to have a man like me. We spent a lot of time together. One night, after drinking, we almost became intimate but realized we were not in the right place emotionally, so we did not. I saw her many more times after that, and she admitted that although she wanted to move on from her relationship, she then went so far back that she could not. I respected that. I see her once in a while and wonder what life would be like. Story 41. Former coworker, as much as I dislike myself for it. She was interested and so was I, and everyone around us knew it. In a prior experience, I tried dating a coworker with the best intentions, but it ended very badly. That first workplace relationship nearly cost me my job and caused significant stress. Needless to say, I vowed never to date a coworker again. Ultimately, this later coworker quit the company while I was on vacation and she never reached out. I determined that she felt hurt that I never overcame my past experiences. I have no way to contact her anyway, so I just have to file it in the not meant to be drawer in my mind. Story 42. Yes, she is still the one who got away. She was my sister's best friend, whom I had known since they became friends in grade school. We dated when we were in our 20s, and I was foolish and messed it up. This was about 30 years ago. She ended up marrying a good man whom I actually knew, and we are still friends to this day. We catch up occasionally, and she was one of the few people who reached out to me after my father passed away. The difficult part is that she recently told me, after apparently drinking a bit, that she will always love me. Story 43. She knows who she is. Luckily, we still talk. She knows how much she means to me. She is the most amazing person I have ever met. We were meant to be in each other's lives one way or another. Story 44. If being overly clueless and an idiot counts as not being ready, then yes. I had multiple women who were clearly interested in me and were fairly obvious about it. But my low self-esteem younger self assumed it was impossible and never did anything. In hindsight, it is pretty clear, but the idea that someone would be interested in me was not something I even considered at the time. Honestly, my first relationship only happened because she was very persistent and so obvious that it actually got through my thick skull. Usually, women in the past gave up after a day or two of being obvious, but this woman, for 2 straight weeks, made it clear she was interested and I finally caught on. I don't blame other women for giving up and assuming I wasn't interested because I probably would have thought the same if the roles were reversed. Story 45. I met this amazing woman while I was abroad for a few months. I wasn't sure where we stood the entire time, if she liked me or not, and I was too young and inexperienced to be straightforward. I think I had low self-confidence at the time. This girl was stunning, confident, funny, and genuinely kind to an incredible degree. When I left, she came to the bus station and waited with me until the moment my bus departed. During my layover, she sent me a text plainly stating that she liked me and wanted me to go back so we could date. She couldn't have made it any easier. At the time, I was building my career and had other commitments at home. I just couldn't see myself leaving that or trying to make it work, so I never ended up going back. We talked for a while after that, but eventually drifted apart. And now we're just friends on social media. She's happily married now, and while I'm happy where I am in life, I do regret not seizing the opportunity with her when I had the chance. Story 46. It wasn't me who wasn't ready, but her, at least that is what she said. I think she just didn't like me the same way. Back then, she said she couldn't because of past trauma and did not want me to help her or be there for her during therapy. Whatever the reason, I would have died for her and still do a little bit some days. Story 47. Met her on Bumble. We went on a couple of dates, but we're both trying to finish our degrees in our mid-30s, so I never asked her to be official. Another man did, and she became his girlfriend instead. Story 48. Posts by young people saying anything about high school and younger make me wish Reddit had a before and after 35-year-old version. Story 49. Yeah, I think about it all the time and what life might have been like. Would it feel easier or happier? I wonder if they ever think of me, but I hope and know they do not really. Story 50. I still occasionally think about one of my first girlfriends in an intrusive thoughts way, and I suppose there is some kind of if I did this differently, but not in a wistful way. She basically had borderline personality disorder and was abusive, and that behavior is what solidifies her in my mind. I am much better off without her and the misery she inflicts on those around her. Story 51. I started dating a really great woman right after a very traumatic breakup from my ex-fiancé. I had no business starting to date again, but I did it anyway. I foolishly used this great woman as a crutch to escape my healing process. It backfired and I really hurt her. I feel terrible about it. Therapy has helped a lot and I eventually got over the trauma, but not before I deeply hurt this woman. Story 52. I married her more than 20 years later. I was immature and unfaithful when I was younger. We had been involved and she wanted to continue, but I chose her best friend at the time instead. Sex was good, but we would never have worked out back then. Now we are happily married after running into each other a few years ago. Story 53. She was my high school girlfriend. We loved each other deeply, but she always seemed unhappy, and we fought more than I could tolerate. After 2 years, I ended the relationship. I am in my 40s now. I have dated off and on and had a few long-term relationships since then, but she is the only one I ever think about. I am fairly certain she is the only girl who truly cared about me. Story 54. I had just broken up with my ex. I met a girl, we went out on a date and slept together. She knew I was fresh out of a relationship and was not interested in anything serious, nor was I mentally ready. She was there for me. We were friends with benefits for some time, and I knew she wanted something serious, but I did not. I also had 3 more friends with benefits at the time, along with other casual relationships, and I guess I did not want to stop at all. I introduced her to a friend of mine, and they are married now. I remember her very fondly as an amazing person, and I am very glad they both found their happy ever after. Story 55. Amanda was the first girl I went out with after my divorce. My ex had cheated on me with a married coworker, which ended our 8-year relationship. She was kind, caring, patient, empathetic, and actually found me attractive. I was attending counseling, but she was always available to listen when I needed to vent. We dated for 2 years. She was 4 years older than me, and one day she said she loved me. Couldn't say it back. I could tell it crushed her. I was making good progress in counseling, but it was impossible for me to give her a timeline for when I would be able to fully love again. I know women have an internal timeline for marriage and children. She was so sweet and kind, the een to my young, but I pushed her away because I didn't want her to miss out on the things in life I knew she wanted. Story 56. Usually it goes like this. You go to dances, dance with her and think, what do I do next? You end up doing nothing. I still remember her waist under my hands, but not much more. Story 57. High school pool party. Age 15. A girl 1 grade above, who I had a huge crush on, was there. She wasn't a theater enthusiast like the rest of us, but she was friends with many of them, so there she was. This took place in the mid-northeast around April. It was warm enough to wear swimsuits, but the water in the pool was still very cold. One mutual friend was being a typical extra theater girl and annoying everyone. The girl this is about, we'll call her Annie, turned to me and said, I'll show you my breasts if you push her into the pool. I said, deal, and gently hip-checked this girl, who was a friend, into the pool. Annie and I left through the fence, and she showed me her breasts. They were amazing. Then she said, you can touch them if you want. And I said, I'm okay. I was most of the way through my walk home when I realized the worst part. That must have been a huge blow to her ego. Chubby old me, looking at this amazing girl and being like, no, just looking is fine. I still cringe about it almost 2 decades later. As a Jewish person, if I had a time machine, I'd leave Hitler be and go back to change this exact moment. What a foolish mistake I made. Sorry, Annie. We're both married now, but I still think about what could have been if I hadn't been so shy. Story 58. Her name was Harley. Her father actually named her after the motorcycle. She was from the higher end of town. I was not. Story 59. College sweetheart. She had the prettiest eyes in the world. They were not just blue. They were the most beautiful baby blue you have ever seen, like the color of the sky on a sunny day with just a hint of overcast. We were both young and did not know what we wanted. I have not seen her in 15 years. I am married with a family now. Last I heard, she has done the same. I would not trade a minute with my wife for another day with her. But that Robert Earl King song does stir up some memories. Story 60. I was with who I thought was the one for 5 years. I am a 49-year-old man. I found out a few months after she left that I am autistic. So, it's kind of like now I have the explanation as to why things seem difficult, but the girl I lost works with people with special needs and has neurodiversity stickers on her car. I was also disabled at 27 by a hypoxic coma. I have a degree in animation, computer-generated imagery, and computer effects. I study art, history, science, and comparative religion. I am always cramming new things into my head. But somehow it wasn't enough, so I guess I wasn't ready. She left on November 10th, 2023. I did a lot for her. I helped her move 600 miles. Cooked. I made her breakfast. I did laundry. So it's not like I was inactive. But she would occasionally, usually when I was very sleepy, complain that I didn't have anything going on or going for me and that I needed to find something or we just wouldn't make it. I would freak out because it amounted to undue autism, and neither of us were aware. I also planned cool dates and gave great thoughtful gifts tailored to things she liked. I mean, what did I miss? I just wasn't good enough in my present form after trying since I was 23. So, yeah, I have about 3 dreams about her a week, but communication was cut, and I respect that. I asked for no discussion. She was seen with a new guy about 3 days after she left me. I still haven't left the house aside from food and essentials. I don't date. I have a seemingly disinterested therapist, but my psychiatrist put me on ketamine therapy. I have to say, there is a guide to be written about navigating that effectively. Too bad she won't be around for that. Also, I am starting a Zen and video gaming channel on Twitch. Story 61. This is not exactly what you asked, but she is the only woman I truly regret missing out on. I was working at a poor restaurant when a new waitress started. She was a tall, attractive redhead with beautiful eyes. There was immediate chemistry, and we became fast friends. She was the only thing that kept me sane in that difficult environment. It must be emphasized that I am not very perceptive when it comes to women. Even compared to most men, I am as dense as the Earth's crust, so I have no doubt that I probably inadvertently rejected her. Time went by, and she ended up getting pregnant with her ex-boyfriend and then moved back to Missouri. I lost touch with her after that. The last time I saw, she had moved to Chicago, but that was years ago. As I said, I am an exceptionally foolish man who has missed far more opportunities than this, but she is the only one I truly look back on and wish things had gone differently. Story 62. We were young and had a fling. She was incredibly attractive, like Victoria's Secret model material, intelligent, curious, insightful, mature, and adventurous. The timing was bad, and my mental health likely contributed to our separation. We both knew it was just bad timing. Had things been different, we could have had a long-lasting, passionate relationship. She is now married to a military man, has 4 children, and has had plastic surgery. I hardly recognize her anymore. Story 63. I dated someone for about 2 years beginning when I was 18. By the end, it had become a codependent relationship and it ended badly. Before that, it was a crazy, fun time. The highs were incredibly high and the lows were crash and burn. I choose to remember just the good times whenever I think about her. Story 64. I dated a girl in college, the only girl I have ever loved. This was probably 4 years ago. I have had girlfriends since, but none compare. I am content with being single for the time being. I still think about her all the time, but she has completely moved on. Story 65. Katie was awesome, thoughtful and outspoken, very funny and intelligent. She was confident in her abilities. She wanted to have children much earlier than most people our age. I hope she found what she was looking for. Story 66. Well, there are 2 instances. One was when I was in an amateur theater group. There was this older girl. She was 20 and I was 15 or 16, and she was beautiful and funny, so I really liked her. I was trying to make her laugh and have conversations the whole time we were rehearsing. It was going surprisingly well, at least in my teenage mind, but I don't think she felt the same way. On the last day, the actual day of the play, she was nervous before coming on stage. I managed to calm her down, and she kissed me on the cheek. I know it sounds silly, but you have to understand I was a virgin who usually had trouble talking to girls. So it's a moment I'll never forget. I never saw or talked to her again because she moved away, and I didn't keep any way to contact her. I guess I regret not being more direct and not staying in touch. The second instance is more recent, and I will keep it vague. I had to transfer to a new university and had a difficult time making new acquaintances. After a few months, I met a few people, including the girl from this story. We were getting along well on campus, but the problem was we only hung out there. Inexperienced as I was, I made basically no clear moves because I was afraid she might not be interested and I would ruin the friendship. So, I did nothing and just let her move on with her life. There are many parallels to the first story, except I actually think I had a chance in the second one. I'm not sure if that's what the original poster meant, but I feel lighter now. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.